The breaking point. The holodisplay flickered in the dim light of Commander Elena Rodriguez's office aboard the UES Vigilant. Her dark eyes narrowed as she studied the pattern of trade route disruptions across human space. Over the past 6 months, 37 colonial supply ships had reported mysterious navigation failures. 12 had disappeared entirely. The official reports blamed equipment malfunctions, space debris, or pilot error. But Elena knew better. She zoomed in on the Procyon sector, where the latest incident had occurred. Computer, overlay Zaxuri patrol patterns for the past 3 months. A web of alien ship movements appeared, creating an intricate dance of intersecting lines. Every single accident happened within 12 hours of a Zaxuri vessel passing through the same sector. Commander. Lieutenant James O'Neill's voice came through the intercom. Dr. Wei is here with his report from the R&D division. Send him in, Elena replied, not taking her eyes off the display. Marcus Wei entered with his characteristic quiet energy, tablet in hand and dark hair slightly disheveled. The quantum physicist had been working around the clock since Elena had shared her suspicions about the Zaxuri 3 months ago. I think we've cracked it, he said without preamble, stepping up to the holodisplay. The navigation failures weren't caused by any conventional weapon or interference. The Zaxuri are using quantum-entangled particles to create localized spacetime distortions. Subtle enough to look like equipment failure, but devastating to our navigation systems. Elena's jaw tightened. They're testing us. Seeing how much they can get away with before we notice. Yes, but they've made a critical mistake. Marcus pulled up his own data, overlaying it on Elena's display. Their quantum manipulation leaves a distinctive signature. Once you know what to look for, it's like they're leaving fluorescent footprints all over space. We can not only prove their involvement but predict where they'll strike next. And counter it? A smile crossed Marcus's face. Better. We can turn their own technology against them. I've designed a system of quantum-linked satellites that can detect and reverse their distortions. But that's just the beginning. Before he could continue, the office lights flashed red. Lieutenant O'Neill's voice came through again, tight with urgency. Commander, we're detecting multiple Zaxuri vessels entering the Procyon sector. They're on an intercept course with Colony Station 7. Elena straightened, her command presence taking over. How many ships? 12 warships, ma'am. Much larger force than their usual patrol groups. She exchanged looks with Marcus. They're escalating. Moving from covert harassment to overt threats. She accessed the tactical display, studying the Zaxuri approach vector. How soon can your satellite system be operational? The prototype is ready. We'd need about 6 hours to deploy the first network node. Colony Station 7 has less than 4 hours before the Zaxuri fleet reaches them. Elena's fingers flew over the console, sending out alert signals to the rest of the human defense fleet. Get to the lab. Begin deployment preparations. I'll buy you the time you need. As Marcus hurried out, Elena opened a channel to the bridge. All hands to battle stations. Plot an intercept course to Colony Station 7. She paused, studying the tactical display one final time. The Zaxuri want to test human patience. Let's show them exactly what happens when they push us too far. The UES Vigilance engines hummed to life as Elena initiated the ship-wide communication system. Attention all personnel. For months, we've watched as an alien power has systematically undermined our expansion into space, endangering our colonies and killing our people while hiding behind a mask of deniability. Today, they've chosen to show their true intentions. She took a deep breath, her voice carrying the weight of command and conviction. Today, we show them that humanity will not be intimidated, will not be contained, and will not stand idle while our people are threatened. Battle stations, everyone. We make our stand here. As the massive ship accelerated towards its destiny, Elena felt the familiar pre-battle calm settle over her. The Zaxuri had clearly studied humanity's technology, their patrol patterns, their standard responses. But they had failed to understand something fundamental about human nature, the difference between patience and weakness. They were about to learn that lesson the hard way. Invisible warfare. The battle for Colony Station 7 lasted exactly 17 minutes. When the Zaxuri fleet emerged from hyperspace, expecting to find a vulnerable human outpost, they instead encountered the UES Vigilant and 3 other human defense fleet vessels in perfect defensive formation. The alien ship's quantum distortion weapons proved useless against vessels that had been hastily equipped with Dr. Way's protective countermeasures. The Zaxuri retreat was as swift as it was humiliating. But for Commander Elena Rodriguez, this was only the beginning. "They'll be back," she said, studying the tactical replay in the Vigilance war room 3 days later. "And next time, they'll bring something new." Dr. Marcus Way nodded, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface as he fine-tuned the calculations for Project Phantom. "Which is exactly what we're counting on. The Quantum Link satellite network isn't just a defensive system, it's a learning network. Every attack they launch teaches us more about their technology." Around them, a three-dimensional representation of human space shimmered with thousands of points of light, the growing web of quantum-linked satellites. Each node acted as both sensor and shield, creating an invisible barrier that could detect and counter Zaxuri interference across vast distances. "High Command has approved full deployment," Elena announced, pulling up the latest communication from Earth. "They're calling it the most significant defensive innovation since the development of shield technology." Marcus allowed himself a small smile. "The Zaxuri still think they're fighting a conventional war. They don't understand that we're turning space itself into our ally." Their conversation was interrupted by Lieutenant O'Neill's urgent voice. "Commander, we're detecting unusual activity in the Zaxuri home system. Their High Council appears to be in emergency session." Elena and Marcus moved to the main viewing screen, where encrypted data streams from human intelligence sources painted a picture of growing chaos within the Zaxuri Federation. The defeat at Colony Station 7 had sparked a political firestorm. "Look at these transmission patterns," Marcus pointed to spikes of communication activity between different Zaxuri worlds. "Their member species are arguing amongst themselves. Some of them never wanted this confrontation with humanity in the first place." Elena studied the data with growing interest. "Can you isolate the different factions?" Marcus adjusted the display, and the communication patterns reorganized themselves into distinct clusters. 3 main groups, he explained. The traditionalists who initiated the anti-human campaign, the moderates who prefer diplomatic solutions, and a smaller group that seems to be advocating for complete isolation from other species. "The traditionalists are losing support," Elena observed, noting the shifting patterns of alliance. "But that makes them more dangerous, not less. They'll need to prove their strategy can work, or they'll lose power entirely." As if confirming her analysis, new alerts began flashing across the screen. "Multiple Zaxuri battle groups mobilizing," O'Neill reported. "Much larger than anything we've seen before. They're heading toward different human sectors. They're forcing us to divide our forces," Elena said, quickly assessing the tactical situation. "They think if they can't beat our new defenses with superior technology, they can overwhelm them with numbers." But Marcus was smiling again, the kind of smile that suggested he knew something the Zaxuri didn't. "They still don't understand what they're really fighting against." "Show them, Commander." Elena nodded and opened a channel to all human defense fleet vessels. "This is Commander Rodriguez. Initiative Phantom Web is now active. All ships, engage quantum link protocols." Across human space, thousands of satellites simultaneously activated their full potential. The network that the Zaxuri had dismissed as a simple defensive screen revealed its true nature. Each node began sharing data, processing power, and defensive capabilities with every other node in the network. The entire system became a single, vast quantum computer, capable of predicting and countering Zaxuri attacks across multiple sectors simultaneously. In the war room of the Vigilant, Elena and Marcus watched as the first Zaxuri battle groups encountered humanity's new defensive paradigm. The aliens' coordinated attacks dissolved into confusion as their weapons and tactics were anticipated and countered before they could even be fully deployed. "Send a message to all human colonies and vessels," Elena commanded. "Project Phantom is operational. The shield that guards humanity stands ready." As reports of Zaxuri retreats began flooding in from multiple sectors, Marcus studied the quantum network's performance data with satisfaction. "You know what the most interesting thing is?" he said quietly. "The network is already learning to predict their strategic decisions, not just their tactical ones. In a very real sense, we're not just defending against their technology, we're defending against their thoughts." Elena considered this as she watched the Zaxuri forces withdraw in disarray. "They wanted to test whether humanity had the patience to endure their provocations," she said. "Instead, they're about to learn that human patience isn't just about endurance. It's about waiting for the perfect moment to demonstrate just how far ahead of them we've really been thinking." In the depths of space, the quantum network continued to grow, learn, and evolve, preparing for the battles yet to come. The Zaxuri had started this conflict believing they were dealing with a technologically inferior species that could be slowly worn down through strategic pressure. They were about to discover just how wrong they had been. The counterstrike. The warning came at 0300 hours ship time. Lieutenant O'Neill's voice cut through the darkness of Elena's quarters. "Commander, multiple quantum ruptures detected. It's the largest Zaxuri fleet we've ever encountered." Elena was already moving, muscle memory taking over as she donned her uniform. "Alert Dr. Wei. How many ships?" "Over 300 vessels, Commander. They're targeting Earth directly." In the 6 weeks since Project Phantom's activation, the Zaxuri had grown increasingly desperate. Their attempts to overcome the quantum network had grown more creative, and more reckless. But this was different. This was everything they had. The Vigilance war room was already bustling when Elena arrived. Marcus stood at the main tactical display, his usual calm demeanor replaced by intense concentration. "They've modified their entire fleet," he said without preamble. "The quantum signatures are completely different." "They've been studying our defenses," Elena observed, watching the massive fleets approach. "Can the network adapt?" Marcus's fingers flew over the controls. "They're using some kind of quantum interference pattern I've never seen before. It's like they've found a way to." His eyes widened. "They're trying to create a cascade failure in the network. If they succeed, every satellite in the system will go dark simultaneously." Elena felt her jaw tighten. "How long?" "4 hours until they reach Earth's defense perimeter. Maybe 5 before their interference pattern can affect the entire network. Then we have 3 hours to turn their strategy against them." Elena opened a channel to Fleet Command. "This is Commander Rodriguez. Requesting immediate authorization for Operation Sunburst." The response was instant. "Authorization granted, Commander." "Good hunting." Elena turned to her crew. "Send word to all fleet vessels. Execute Maneuver Prometheus. Dr. Wei, initiate Quantum Network Reconfiguration Protocol 0. Around them, the tactical display came alive as hundreds of human ships began moving into position. The Zaxuri fleet approached in a perfect attack formation, their modified ships generating an interference pattern designed to cripple humanity's defenses. What they didn't know was that humanity had anticipated this moment. Every failed attack, every retreat, every modification they'd made, the quantum network had been learning, analyzing, predicting. And waiting. "Network reconfiguration complete," Marcus announced. "Ready on your order." Elena studied the tactical display one final time. The Zaxuri fleet was now fully committed to their attack vector. Execute Protocol 0. Across human space, thousands of quantum-linked satellites simultaneously altered their fundamental operating parameters. Instead of trying to resist the Zax-Uri interference pattern, they began to amplify it, creating a massive feedback loop that caught the alien fleet in its own trap. The effect was instantaneous and devastating. Hundreds of Zax-Uri ships suddenly found their quantum-based systems turning against them, their carefully planned interference pattern becoming a weapon that targeted their own technology. Multiple Zax-Uri vessels experiencing critical systems failures, O'Neill reported, his voice tight with controlled excitement. Their fleet formation is breaking apart. Elena nodded. All ships, execute attack pattern Delta. Target their command and control vessels first. Let's show them what a real counterstrike looks like. The human defense fleet moved with practiced precision, their ships diving into the chaos of the disorganized Zax-Uri formation. What had begun as an overwhelming alien assault transformed into a masterclass in tactical superiority as human vessels systematically disabled or captured key Zax-Uri warships. In the war room, Marcus monitored the quantum network's performance. The pattern is holding. Their entire fleet is trapped in the feedback loop. They can't retreat without abandoning their ships. Elena watched as more Zax-Uri vessels surrendered, their crews realizing the futility of their position. Send a message to the Zax-Uri fleet commander, she ordered. Tell them we're prepared to accept their surrender and provide assistance to any damaged vessels. Commander, O'Neill called out, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Zax-Uri flagship. It's Ambassador Tal from their moderate faction. Elena raised an eyebrow. Put it through. The holographic image of a tall, elegant Zax-Uri appeared in the war room. Commander Rodriguez, Tal's translated voice carried a note of both respect and urgency. The traditionalist faction has been overthrown. We request an immediate cessation of hostilities and the opening of diplomatic channels. Elena studied the ambassador's image carefully. Your fleet was on its way to attack Earth, Ambassador. Why should we trust this sudden desire for peace? Because, Tal replied, what you've demonstrated today proves what the moderate faction has been arguing all along, humanity's greatest strength isn't your technology or your military might. It's your ability to turn an enemy's strength against them while still maintaining the wisdom to offer mercy. Marcus stepped forward. The quantum readings from their fleet are stabilizing, Commander. They're powering down their interference systems. Elena nodded slowly. Very well, Ambassador. We accept your request for diplomatic talks. But understand this, any further aggression against human colonies or vessels will be met with the full force of our capabilities. We've been patient long enough. As the transmission ended, Elena turned to her crew. Maintain battle stations. Just because we're willing to talk doesn't mean we're willing to be caught off guard. She paused, looking at the tactical display showing hundreds of disabled Zax-Uri ships. Send engineering teams to assist their damaged vessels. Let's show them the difference between humanity's patience and humanity's vengeance. The battle that would become known as the Great Counterstrike marked a turning point in human Zax-Uri relations. The traditionalist faction's gamble had failed spectacularly, leading to their political downfall. But more importantly, it demonstrated to the entire galaxy that humanity's patience should never be mistaken for weakness, and that their capacity for innovation was matched only by their capacity for mercy. Diplomatic calculations. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Zax-Uri Federation gleamed under its crystalline dome, but the atmosphere inside was anything but brilliant. Ambassador Tal stood before the gathered representatives of 17 species, his normally iridescent scales dulled with fatigue. The defeat of the traditionalist fleet had sent shockwaves through Zax-Uri society, and now the Federation teetered on the brink of civil war. The humans did not destroy our fleet when they could have, Tal's voice resonated through the chamber. They offered aid to our damaged vessels. They demonstrated both superior strength and superior wisdom. Yet some among us still speak of continued aggression. From the shadows of the chamber's upper tier, Supreme Commander Vextral emerged, his battle-scarred scales a testament to centuries of military service. "The humans humiliated our finest fleet," he growled. "They turned our own technology against us. Such an insult cannot stand." In the Vigilance diplomatic chamber, Commander Elena Rodriguez watched the transmitted proceedings with growing concern. Dr. Marcus Way stood beside her, analyzing the quantum data streams that carried the broadcast. "The feed is genuine," Marcus confirmed. "The political division in their society runs deeper than we thought. Tal's faction holds the majority, but Vextral commands significant military loyalty." Elena nodded grimly. "And a cornered warrior is the most dangerous kind." She turned to Lieutenant O'Neill. "What's the status of our diplomatic convoy?" "Ambassador Chen's ship will reach the Zaxuri homeworld in 6 hours. The protection fleet is in position, and the quantum network coverage is at maximum capacity." Back in the assembly hall, the debate had escalated. Tal faced Vextral directly now, their scales shifting colors in the emotional displays unique to their species. "You would risk everything, our federation, our future, our very survival, for pride? For honor?" Vextral roared. "The humans expand unchecked through space, their quantum network spreading like a virus. They claim to offer peace while building the means to dominate us all." "The network stays," Elena murmured to herself, watching the exchange. "That's non-negotiable." She turned to Marcus. "How quickly can you reconfigure the network's quantum signatures?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You think they'll try something during the diplomatic mission?" "Vextral is too experienced to accept defeat this easily. He'll have a contingency plan." As if confirming her suspicions, the quantum sensors began registering anomalous readings. Marcus rushed to the control panel, his fingers flying over the holographic interface. "Multiple quantum signatures detected, but they're not like anything we've seen before. They're not trying to attack the network directly." Elena leaned forward, studying the patterns. "They're trying to hide something. Patch me through to Ambassador Chen's ship." But before she could speak, the assembly hall erupted into chaos. Vextral had drawn a ceremonial blade, its edge glowing with ancient energy. "If the moderates will not protect our sovereignty, then the Pure Path faction will. Our deep space fleet stands ready. Let the humans witness true Zaxuri resolve." Tal's scales flashed warning colors. "Deep space fleet? The Federation has no such." His eyes widened in realization. "You built a secret fleet. Against all our laws, all our treaties." Elena was already moving. "All ships, battle stations. Lieutenant, get me fleet command. Marcus, can you locate their hidden fleet?" Marcus worked frantically at the controls. "The quantum signatures we detected, they're using some kind of cloaking technology we've never encountered. But if I recalibrate the network to search for gravitational anomalies..." The tactical display suddenly lit up with new contacts, dozens of ships emerging from hidden positions throughout Zaxuri space. They were smaller than traditional Zaxuri vessels but bristling with experimental weapons. "They're on an intercept course with Ambassador Chen's convoy," O'Neill reported. Elena's mind raced through options. A direct confrontation could trigger a Zaxuri civil war, potentially destroying any chance for peace. But if Vextral's fleet reached the diplomatic mission? "Marcus, remember what you said about the network learning to predict their thoughts?" She stepped up to the tactical display. "Can we use it to predict where they'll strike first?" A slow smile spread across Marcus's face. "Better than that. We can use it to show them exactly what will happen if they try." Elena nodded. "Do it." In the assembly hall, Vextral was rallying his supporters when every communication screen suddenly activated. The tactical display showed his secret fleet's position, their planned attack vectors, and a detailed simulation of the inevitable outcome: complete destruction at the hands of humanity's superior defensive capabilities. But it showed something else too: the devastating impact on Zaxuri civilian populations from the resulting conflict. The simulation laid bare the full cost of Vextral's pride. Tal seized the moment. "Look," he commanded the assembly. "Look at what the humans could do, and what they choose not to do. They show us our own destruction not as a threat, but as a warning. As a plea for peace." The assembly chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Elena watched through the feed as Vextral's supporters began to shift their colors, moving from aggressive reds to thoughtful blues. "Commander," Marcus called out softly. "The hidden fleet, they're powering down weapons. Vextral's officers are standing down." Elena allowed herself a small smile. "Send word to Ambassador Chen. Tell her to proceed with the diplomatic mission as planned." She turned to her crew. "But maintain battle stations. Peace is always more secure when backed by readiness." As Vextral was taken into custody by Federation security forces, Tal addressed the assembly one final time. "We tested humanity's patience, and they showed us restraint. We challenged their strength, and they showed us wisdom. Now they offer us peace while holding the power for war. Let us be wise enough to accept." The vote for peace negotiations was nearly unanimous. In the Vigilance diplomatic chamber, Elena watched the proceedings conclude with cautious optimism. "The quantum network," she said to Marcus, "make sure they understand it stays in place. Not as a threat, but as a reminder." Marcus nodded. "A reminder of what happens when someone mistakes human patience for human weakness?" "No," Elena replied, watching as Tal's faction began organizing the peace delegation. "A reminder that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to choose peace even when war would be easier." The crisis wasn't over, there would be months of negotiations ahead, treaties to be written, trust to be built. But as Elena prepared to welcome the Zaxuri peace delegation aboard the Vigilant, she knew that something fundamental had changed. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about humanity. Their patience was not born of fear or weakness, but of the wisdom to know when to strike and when to extend a hand in friendship. Resolution and reckoning. 3 months after the failed coup attempt, the observation deck of the UES Vigilant offered a stunning view of both Earth and the newly constructed Zaxuri Embassy Station. The massive structure hung in space like a crystalline flower, its design a fusion of human and Zaxuri architecture, a physical symbol of the changing relationship between the two species. Commander Elena Rodriguez stood at the viewport, watching shuttles move between the station and various diplomatic vessels. Dr. Marcus Way worked at a nearby console, making final adjustments to the quantum network that now served as the foundation of an interspecies defense alliance rather than a tool of war. "The last of Vextral's supporters have been arrested," Elena said, reading from her latest intelligence briefing. "The Pure Path faction is officially dissolved." Marcus nodded without looking up from his work. "And their experimental fleet? Being studied by joint human Zaxuri research teams. Tal's suggestion, he says sharing technology will build trust faster than keeping secrets." She smiled slightly. "Though I notice they're particularly interested in studying our quantum network." "Which is exactly what we wanted," Marcus replied, finally looking up. "The network was never meant to be just a defensive system. It's going to be the backbone of something much larger." The door chimed, and Lieutenant O'Neill entered. "Commander, the final treaty delegation is ready. Ambassador Tal requests your presence." The main conference room of the embassy station was packed with representatives from both species. Tal's scales shimmered with optimistic greens as Elena and Marcus entered. The former adversaries had developed a genuine respect for each other over the months of negotiations. "Commander Rodriguez," Tal greeted her warmly. "Dr. Way. You'll be pleased to know that the Federation Council has unanimously approved the final draft of the treaty." Elena took her seat at the conference table, noting the historic significance of the moment. "Including the provisions for the Joint Defense Initiative?" "Indeed. Tal activated a holographic display showing the planned expansion of the quantum network. Though some still find it ironic that the system which defeated us will now protect us both. Protection and prevention, Marcus added, pulling up his own data. The network's true potential was never about warfare. Watch this. He initiated a new program, and the holographic display transformed. The quantum network's connections began forming new patterns, linking not just military installations but research centers, trading hubs, and cultural exchanges. What you're seeing, Elena explained to the assembled delegates, is the future. The quantum network can do more than detect threats, it can facilitate instantaneous communication, coordinate emergency responses, enable new forms of scientific collaboration. It's not a weapon, it's a bridge. Tal's scales shifted to deep blue, the color of profound understanding. You planned this from the beginning. The network was never just a defensive measure. It was the foundation for everything that would follow. Elena nodded. Humanity's patience extends beyond military strategy, Ambassador. We knew that eventually, we would either be allies or enemies. We built a system that could serve either purpose, hoping for the former while preparing for the latter. The signing ceremony that followed was broadcast across both human and Zaxuri space. As Elena watched Tal and the human representatives formalize the alliance, she recalled the long path that had led them here. The Zaxuri's initial provocations, the development of the quantum network, the battles and confrontations, all of it had been necessary steps toward this moment. Later, in a private meeting room, Tal approached Elena and Marcus. There is something I've been curious about, the ambassador admitted. You could have used the network to crush us completely. Even now, it gives humanity significant advantages. Why choose this path? Marcus looked to Elena, who had been considering this question since the beginning. Because true strength isn't about domination, she replied. It's about having the power to destroy your enemy and choosing instead to make them your ally. Humanity's patience wasn't just about waiting for the right moment to strike, it was about waiting for the right moment to extend our hand in friendship. The network will bind our species together, Marcus added. Each day, it grows more interlinked, more essential to both our civilizations. We're creating something that can't be undone without harming us both. That's not subjugation, it's synthesis. Tal's scales rippled with multiple colors, a sign of deep emotional response. When we first encountered humanity, we thought you were technologically inferior, politically naive. We saw your patience as weakness, your restraint as fear. We could not have been more wrong. A common mistake, Elena said with a smile. Fortunately, humanity is also patient with those who underestimate us. As they stood together, watching Earth and the embassy station orbit each other in an eternal dance, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The Zaxuri had tested human patience, believing it would reveal weakness. Instead, they had discovered humanity's greatest strength, the wisdom to know when to fight, when to forgive, and when to forge something entirely new from the ashes of conflict. The quantum network hummed silently through space, connecting two civilizations that had moved from enemies to allies. It stood as a testament to humanity's true nature, not just their capacity for defense or innovation, but their ability to transform tools of war into bridges of peace. Commander, Marcus called out, checking his readings. The first joint scientific mission is ready to launch. They're waiting for your authorization. Elena stepped forward, remembering the long path from those first suspicious shipping accidents to this moment of shared discovery. Signal the mission commander, Operation New Horizon is approved. Let's show the galaxy what humanity and the Zaxuri can accomplish together. As the joint mission vessel departed, its crew a mixture of both species, Elena knew that they had achieved something far greater than military victory. They had proven that humanity's patience wasn't a weakness to be tested, but a strength to be admired, and that the true measure of a civilization lay not in its capacity for war, but in its wisdom to build lasting peace.